Welcome to this presentation of the Paper Street Podcast. Welcome to Late to the Party, a program on the Paper Street Pictures Podcast Network. Your hosts for the following are myself, Shawn Talley, and joining me as he traditionally does for this program, he is the SHREK to my donkey, or the donkey to my SHREK, but really we're kind of just two SHREKs if we're being honest. Either way, this man is an all-star who's got his game on and has come to play. He's Mr. Cameron Burns. How goes it, Rockstar?
That was a really impressive intro. That was your best one so far. It goes good. I mean, I think we both wish we were donkeys, but in actuality, I think we both know that we're Shreks.
Indeed. Maybe the comedic chops of the donkeys, but certainly the visuals are closer to the big green galoot. Yeah, this is Late to the Party. This is a movie that it's going to be interesting. I kind of I wrestled with the choice here because our guest Emily Bennett, who we'll pitch to momentarily, gave us a handful of movies, and I just kept going back to like, this movie's so big that I just feel like we have to cover this movie. But you want to give the folks a quick explainer of this program and kind of the layout of how we do it?
Yeah. So, basically we pick someone that we know and someone that we want to have a conversation with. And we say, hey, friend, colleague, what big movies haven't you seen? The kind that, everyone's mom and dad have already seen. And they usually come back with two or three. And because everyone has two or three, it doesn't matter how many movies you watch. It's just kind of a math problem. There's only so much time in the day. So, yeah, they come back with a movie and we have them watch that. We chat with them a little bit before, find out why the heck they have never seen Shrek. And then we send them on their way. They watch the movie and then we bring them back and we have a discussion about it. And this is what we do. And everyone has those kinds of movies. And so we're not short on options. And Shrek's going to be an exciting one because that is definitely a movie that I think even my parents have seen.
Yeah, I have a weird relationship with this movie too. I've mentioned on previous episodes that I worked at Universal for a spell, including on the park side as well, and I even got to dress up in the little medieval costume that those folks had to wear to do the ride once or twice. So, if nothing else, that theme park ground the Smash Mouth tunes that are in this movie into my brain in the worst way, and I've come to loathe them. But we'll get to that too later.
Everyone has come to loathe them.
Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, Believer by the Monkees, written by Neil Diamond, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe a top 20, top 50 pop song of all time. Dead to me now, because Smash Mouth's version was just so abysmal.
So they ruined the original. So like that thing that everyone says when they remake movies, well, it can't. The original's still the original. It can't ruin that. They ruined the original for you. Smash Mouth did that.
I don't know if I would say that. If I heard the Monkees version right now, I might be pleased. But then you're right. Something would creep in the back of my mind and just hearing their terrible version. So it may have retroactively ruined it. But enough about that. We'll cover more of that later on when we talk about the kind of on the nose soundtrack of this movie. There's some choices for sure. Hallelujah. But before we do that, let's pitch to Emily Bennett and ask her why she never saw the movie SHREK. And joining us for this episode, a fantastic actor, an acting graduate of London's Royal Academy of Dramatic Art, no less, a filmmaker, too, who has written, directed, and starred in films including Accidental Stars, LVRS, and the horror thriller Alone with You, now streaming on Shudder. You will also see her on screen before long here in the upcoming Paper Street Pictures film, Chris Stuckman's debut feature, Shelby Oaks. She is Emily Bennett. Emily, thank you so much for joining the party, late as you may be.
Hi, guys. Glad to be here, even if I'm late to the party.
Well, you made it, and that's what counts.
Yeah, Emily was a guest who gave us a few doozies, I'll say, and it was actually a little difficult to choose between them because at the risk of broad stroking, she gave us a few what I would call boy movies. Like, it's not that weird that she didn't see certain things in the 80s and 90s, like maybe The Goonies and others. But for whatever reason, the movie she did give us that stuck out to me, just in that it's such a huge, like, kind of force of pop culture with fingers in multiple things, TV shows, spinoffs, a recent spinoff movie even. Before we even get to that, I do want to say Emily also joins a very exclusive club that is now made up of 2/3 Emily's, and that she joins Emily Higgins and Alex Puerbo in the Has Been on Both Paper Street branded podcast club. So congratulations there.
It's like the podcast EGOT.
That's right. This is the first time we've let you go solo. You're not here with your better half.
I know he's going to be listening intently and would love to be on the show as well, I'm sure.
We'll get him. Don't worry. He's coming up.
We'll find a comic book movie or something Justin hasn't seen, and we'll nerd out that way. But yeah, I mean, Cameron, it sounds like we need 2 more podcasts so that we can make like a P, L, and 2 other, maybe
That's
some vowels,
true.
so we can make a fun word out of it like you got. But
well, I will say, at the risk of giving away information that may or may not be public, Emily could soon have the Paper Street EGOT, which is both podcast, acting in a Paper Street movie, and directing a Paper Street movie. So I won't say any more about it.
Grand Slam champion. There we go.
But that is certainly something. That she would be the absolute first to pull that off, I believe.
I needed an award when that happens. Just
yeah,
saying.
no, that comes with a plaque. There will be a plaque, and it'll be a picture of Aaron and I with like making funny faces and doing thumbs up.
It will have its own wall.
Nice.
We should
I
do
can't
it.
wait.
Well, before we say too many nice things about Emily, we do want to, scold her in one regard. One more thing about the guest. Emily Bennett has never seen the 2001 film SHREK, which folks already know because that's the title of this episode. But we need her to explain herself. Again, no shame. We just want to know maybe the how and why of how that giant movie missed you.
Explain yourself.
I mean, so 2001, I mean, it was a complicated year. But
Wait,
what happened?
Don't worry about it. No,
Not
but
for you to know, Shawn.
I think that year though, I was, oh my gosh, I was in high school, I think high school. And I don't remember what grade, but I do remember being a big snob. I was an art snob. I was like training as an actor. I started pretty young and I got really into like The Method and Brando and James Dean. And, all I would watch was like Elia Kazan movies and On the Waterfront and Streetcar Named Desire. And I kind of had no time for, and this is horrible for me to say as a horror filmmaker, but I had no time for horror and I had no time for sentimental popcorn movies. I was totally insufferable. So like I fully own that. And I learned later all of my mistakes. But I don't know. SHREK came out and I was like, what is this? Like, it was just a big green guy. I knew Eddie Murphy voiced one of the characters, a donkey, but I only learned that from The Office because Michael Scott calls Ryan pretending to be Eddie Murphy in SHREK. And then later, Heidi Klum dressed up as like the girl Shrek.
That would be Fiona, but you'll get there. Don't worry.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I don't know. I came out and I was just so up my own ass about like seeing great films and like reading Shakespeare. I was just that moody girl in school who was like writing a bunch of poetry and like just trying to be an artist. And so, yeah, again, shame on me. I've returned to the world of horror full force and I'll be there forever again. But don't know what SHREK is all about.
Another thing you and Alex Cuervo have in common, the reason you didn't see it is because you were both grumpy emo kids who were only watching cool kid movies. So I totally get that. I can totally understand that. But how have you missed it until now? Like, obviously, SHREK has become a bit of a dynamo. There's like 3 sequels, a spinoff, all kinds of stuff. It won an Oscar. Like, it's got a theme park ride. How did you avoid it till now? I understand how you avoided it then, but how has it remained kind of the big fish you can't catch, or Moby Dick, so to speak?
I just never thought about it. I don't know. Like I have nieces who are much younger, and I'm sure they grew up on it. But when I was really hanging out with them, they were really into Frozen. And so I don't know, like nobody looked at me and they were like, oh my God, you haven't seen SHREK. Or they would say that and it would be like a passing comment. And I just never, I'm a person of function. So I'm like, does this have to do with what I'm doing right now? To my detriment. But almost everything I do has to do with something I'm writing or working on or a character I'm playing. And so SHREK never became homework I gave myself, I guess.
So you're not doing the Winnie the Pooh blood and honey version of SHREK, is what you're saying?
I mean, maybe after I see it.
Now that she's in full-fledged horror filmmaker, we'll see how she takes to it. So yeah, Heidi Klum dressed up as a female SHREK. We don't want to give away anything that might not be given away to you at this point, like the donkey's name is Donkey. Other things, but this is a movie. I mean, there are so many lines, strangely, to this moment that are still quoted, and there's even SHREK riffs on a lot of modern pop culture of the moment. You'll see that when you watch it. I mean, there's a Matrix reference that's kind of already dated by the time it came out with the bullet time jump.
Oh,
But
nice.
there's a famous line where people say, "That'll do, donkey, that'll do." And that was Mike Myers just riffing on Babe. And people think the line is from Shrek, but he actually was quoting the James Cromwell "That'll do, pig." But among that, I mean, there's memes galore still. He pops up in GIFs and other things, so do other characters. And then again, as Cameron said, Puss in Boots got his own spinoff movie, a multi-year Netflix cartoon series, and a recent sequel movie. So yeah, that in that regard, Shrek has just like been permanent kind of through the culture. But yeah, early on, this is 2001. This is like early Pixar. DreamWorks was trying their best to compete with them, and this was like a first big swing. But I do understand that an Emily that had no kids and had no nieces at the time being a little too cool for it, because even the trailers gave it away as like a very on the nose jokes. Smash Mouth on the soundtrack is not going to endear itself to emo young Emily, I don't think. So I understand.
I mean, I did sing along to "Hey Now We're an All-Star." You're an all-star, but no, I think aside from that, honestly, I didn't even know Puss in Boots was like part of that world, actually.
It's been several years, but and Cam might correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think he actually shows up till part 2. But
I believe, yeah, I definitely don't think he's in the first one. I don't know which one he shows up in.
That segues to the next question is, there is a bit of like fantasy character inclusion in this. What do you have a good idea of what this movie is? Like, what do you think? Do you feel like you know the story at all? Do you know anything about it just from kind of cultural osmosis or no?
Yeah, I guess kind of. I know Mike Myers voices Shrek, and he's an ogre, and he, I don't know, is like an outcast, but then probably has to save a girl from something. Fiona, I guess her name is. I mean, I know it's about an ogre who like bands together with a group of other Pixar characters, and they have to go do a thing. And I'm guessing it's save the princess or something like that.
I mean,
that's like classic structure.
Yeah, I think you may have seen this in your mind already.
Oh, really?
Well, no, I mean you're around it. It's not exact, but
okay,
you're pretty close. You kind of know that but it is. I mean, look, the whole thing of it is that it's a kind of a takedown of the classic fairy tale structure. So like, it is kind of the meta, and you'll see this. It's kind of the meta Disney movie where like it's kind of making fun of the things that make a fairy tale movie a fairy tale movie. So it's very generic in its setup, but it's not afraid to kind of poke fun at that stuff. So
well, and I have to say, like, I think just having the main character as this outcast, obviously he's not Prince Charming. He's green, he's big and kind of clumsy looking, and I guess the tone reminds me a little more of Princess Bride, I guess, than a traditional like Sleeping Beauty, Prince Charming going to save the day. So I figured like with Pixar, they had to do something a little left of center with it, hopefully.
Princess Bride, but starring Fezzik in the lead romantic role.
That's exactly.
So again, just because you said Pixar and Cameron said Disney, it actually is DreamWorks. There are definitely Disney jokes that are very pointed, just making fun of all the structures you're talking about. Because again, DreamWorks was doing what they could to compete, movie for movie with them. And
no, that's so funny to know, because I think honestly, I have a hard time sitting through films in general that I know are just trying to be sweet and saccharine and like have the goosebump effect, I say. And it's like the swelling music at the end of a Disney film, and you're just like you'll get goosebumps and you'll feel it, but it's almost like emotional manipulation. And I don't know, it's something about that. I'm like there's still a little Grinch in me that's like, nah, like I love horror because it's a very immediate response. And I do love jump scares if they're done well. I love tension and I love mystery. But when my emotions are manipulated kind of in more vulnerable places, I don't know, I get scared because I think I feel very deeply, and I'm just like, no, I don't want to feel that deeply. So sometimes I'll avoid more sentimental stories, I guess, protecting my tender heart. If that makes sense.
We either chose very wisely or very poorly in this case, because I don't think this movie's overly sentimental, but I do think it could bring out the hipster in you halfway through. You're like, why did they pick this one?
I actually think the otherwise. I actually think that she may like it more than we think. Just because I think it's not necessarily trying to, it's almost commenting on movies that try to do that. So it's like a layer above. I'm now very interested to see where you land on this movie, because you're right, it could go very one way or very the other.
I mean, we'll have to wait and see.
If only you were going to watch this movie and then we were going to come back together and talk about it. That should be a podcast.
Could we do that?
We're through God, all things are possible. So yeah, we can and we should.
I think so. Let's do it, guys.
Let's do it. Let's return on the other side here in just a moment to your listeners' ears and get Emily's thoughts on the film and much more. Stay tuned for Smash Mouth talk, among other things.
So much Smash Mouth talk. Also parfait. That's all I'm saying. One word, parfait.
We're all stars.
Hey there, welcome back. What was a mere second or two for you, the listener, was a good deal more for us. When we last left off, our guest Emily Bennett had not seen SHREK. She was late to the party, but at least she made it. And we welcome her back, a more cultured individual, a more learned film viewer, an all-star, absolutely. But if nothing else, as someone who has now seen the 2001 film SHREK, Emily, one, are you feeling any or all of those things? And two, do you know the Muffin Man?
So many questions all to start. Well, do I know the Muffin Man? I know him better now after having seen SHREK. What was the other question?
I think what Shawn's getting at is, did you actually watch the movie or did you turn it off in the beginning when you heard Smash Mouth?
I'm gonna pretend like I've seen the film. No, I did watch SHREK, guys. I watched it last night. Justin sat down with me, my husband, and he was like, holy shit, I have not seen this film in so long. I watched it. I get why it's such a cultural touchstone. It's like so many things that film references I'm used to in culture. And I guess I just had no idea where it came from.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. It definitely has seeped into the world, whether we like it or not. So the first question is, was it more or less what you thought it would be? Or was it kind of different than you expected?
It was. So I'm a pretty jaded movie viewer. I hate to say that, but I feel like especially when I go into films that are cartoon, films that are more sentimental, I'm such a Grinch. I sit back and I'm like, you're not going to make me feel anything. I know what's happening. And
it's
so
a bad start.
I know. Well, listen, hold on. This is a journey. So I, of course, sat back and I was like, okay, they're making me watch this film. I would probably never see this. And Justin's by far the more happy-go-lucky film viewer than me. And I sat there and I was like, okay, I totally understand where this is going. This is cute. Smash Mouth, great. And honestly, it went places that I was not expecting. And the film, I feel like the Grinch whose heart grew, I got a little teary at the end. And I was like, damn it, don't... So
They got you.
They did. And I knew it was going to, because I'm actually the biggest softie. I have to pretend I'm tough because I've got a tender little heart, underneath years of being in the industry, I feel like. But I really liked it. I thought it was a really fun film about outcasts and outsiders finding each other, which is truly what horror film and filmmaking is kind of all about at its heart.
Interesting. My first question, not just in the macro sense, was did Cameron give away the twist when he said Fiona was the ogre, or did you not know watching the movie that would be the reveal that she was in fact hiding herself at nighttime?
Sorry.
No, you didn't ruin it, because honestly, I had no idea what you were talking about. It didn't ruin it, and I was genuinely surprised.
Interesting, because cultural osmosis, I wasn't sure, because she basically remains that way the bulk of the sequels, and that's why I wasn't sure if you'd know just from seeing pictures of two Shreks or two ogres that you would have realized, oh wait, that is Fiona.
I had forgotten there was even a reveal.
I chastised Cameron quietly when he said that on the pre-watch. I was like, oh, you're giving away that Fiona is the okay. But I'm glad it didn't spoil it for you.
No, honestly, I still don't think I know how many sequels there are to this, and I totally didn't clock that Cam had said that. And the only thing that would have tipped me is Heidi Klum's Halloween costume one year.
Right, which we tried to throw you off immediately. I was like, oh, she just was a girl Shrek, sure.
Yeah, honestly, I was like, maybe Fiona, runs into some magical godmother and she's like, I want to look just like the man I love, or something like that. I didn't know that she was actually kind of a like a Shrek werewolf. Like she changes at night. Like I had no idea. So that, yeah, guys, I don't know how none of this got spoiled for me.
Good on Justin for not spoiling it during it too. Justin, by the way, new gamer handle, Shrek Werewolf, free for you.
Well,
I
and
love
honestly,
Shrek Werewolf.
there are so many handles and like band names that I could rattle off like after watching this movie. Like Onion Ogre feels like one. There's a ton of stuff in this film that I was just like, yeah, this is fun. So no, it was not ruined. I was genuinely surprised by most of the film, which I can't believe I can say that. But I really enjoyed it. Yeah.
Okay, so let's ask this right off the top. Are you team Shrek or team Farquaad? Like the ladies have to choose one or the other.
I mean, first of all, I have to say, I love these writers because when children came out of this film, they were all calling him Lord Fuckwad. And I'm sure their parents fucking loved and hated that.
Not an accident, not to interject here, but we'll get into the Jeffrey Katzenberg of it all. But he was very pointedly jabbing at Disney in this and part two, even more so. But he very much meant to take a swipe at Michael Eisner. And that's exactly why he was named that as Lord Fuckwad, because it sounded like Fuckwad.
Oh my God. That is so, well, anytime he would come on screen, I was like, oh, it's Lord Fuckwad. I mean, I'm totally team Shrek, obviously. Although I have to say, John Lithgow does such a gorgeous job playing Anton Chigurh / Lord Fuckwad. I think that was so funny. And like, I love that he was short. And yeah, but obviously I'm team Shrek.
Okay, well, that's good because they're having a real hard time selling those Lord Farquaad t-shirts. So Team Lord Farquaad is not selling. But I thought some people liked their short kings, but apparently not. But yeah, he's that whole character is amazing. Like everything about Lord Farquaad is so funny, and like everything Lithgow's doing with it is so good.
His hairy chest, his martini in bed, and I love that like all of his branding just looks like the Facebook symbol. Like it just looks like Facebook the Kingdom, because I guess Facebook wasn't like really a thing.
Not by that point, no.
They may have stolen it. They may have stolen it from Shrek.
How many things is Zuckerberg going to steal from?
Yeah. The real question is like, I feel like because Farquaad's such a dickbag, like he gets kind of a bad rap, and that he seemed to be running a really solid community. It was clean. It was nice. Like everyone was just hanging out, having a good time.
Fox News Cameron is back. Saddam was running a really tight ship, guys.
Yeah, okay. I mean, sure, he was doing some bad stuff outside the walls, but inside the walls, man, that place was looking like Stepford Wives nice.
I mean, it was so funny how much his kingdom reminded me of going to Disney World, Disneyland, Disney. I've been to Disneyland Paris for some reason. And it reminded me of that. Like even the little like thing that Shrek and the donkey, who I love, when they come into the kingdom, it's basically a small world playing.
That's a coincidence.
No, well, and look, I look forward to a very long film career, and I look forward to working with many different companies. I have to say, I kind of love all the digs that this film made towards Disney.
Careful. You're not going to get to direct the next Frozen sequel talking like that.
I know. I just ruined it. No, but I have to say, like, in good fun. Like, I don't think it was overtly, or maybe it was. I just enjoyed like the little jabs because, I mean, you open the film with a classic like fairy tale like you would see in the old Disney films. And then it turns out he's like on the toilet reading. I just really enjoyed like the fun poking this film did.
It does a really good job of like that. It's meta in kind of a fun way. Like it knows what a fairy tale is, and it really kind of turns it on its head in a way that like is kind of really creative. And it was doing that before a lot of people were doing meta things, which is why I think Shrek hit so hard when it did, is because it was being subversive when people were still just doing the regular version of fairy tales. And so it really did take off. And I think people, I think that's why people love Shrek so much. There's 4 sequels total, 3 sequels plus the original, and then Puss in Boots, I think. Shawn, question mark.
Yeah, but, 4 total Shreks, 2 Puss in Boots.
It's just a really popular series in general that still has legs. I mean, Shrek 2 did way better than Shrek 1, which is kind of insane too. So yeah, I think it's because it was subversive in a way that not a lot was at that time.
No, totally. And I think, just watching the construction of it, it's interesting to see where this began a huge movement in film. I feel like exactly what you're talking about, the kind of ironic, different view. I love that Shrek is kind of a stand-in for a classic Prince Charming, but instead of a white horse, he has a donkey. He has an ass. I just love the little twists to what you would expect. And honestly, the construction of Shrek, and I told Justin this last night, like I'm a Shakespeare nerd, and this is basically a perfect Shakespeare comedy. Like all Shakespeare comedies have to end in a wedding and like a big dance, which this day, it's really simple and it's really smart.
The big dance actually was added later. It was not originally part of the movie. It was added later. They felt like they needed something to tie a bow on it. So they said, get me Smash Mouth.
Yeah, get them back
let's book in this bad boy.
To ruin a great song.
Oh, yeah. Shawn has opinions about Smash Mouth's cover of Believer.
Oh, really? I want to hear them.
Oh, no, I told Cameron, I think in the pre-watch here that I think that was like a top 50 pop song, Monkeys, written by Neil Diamond. And now I think they retroactively ruined it. The cover was so abysmal, in my opinion. But that's just me. And that comes partly from working at the theme park when they were building that ride. I did work at Universal and would walk through the park, and they had those two Smash Mouth tunes on repeat during construction and when the ride opened for that first year. So I grew to hate all things Smash Mouth. But yeah.
You grew to hate everything Smash Mouth long before everyone else grew to hate everything Smash Mouth.
I was just say everybody
you gotta respect it.
Grew to hate Smash Mouth. They became the Guy Fieri of pop music.
Guy Fieri's great. I will not have a bad word.
I know, actually, I don't have a bad word about it. I just mean like as a visual.
Let's talk about the soundtrack because it is kind of weirdly all over the place. It's very on the nose and very all over the place.
Yeah, it honestly reminded me of, I think it was in Yorgos Lanthimos's film before Poor Things, The Favorite. I don't know if you guys have seen that. I believe it's Rachel Weisz, Olivia Colman, Emma Stone, of course. Mm-hmm. And there are these huge dance sequences that I think are like to R&B, but they're in like all of this like French or Renaissance or Victorian gowns, and it didn't seem to fit, but it was really fun. This kind of reminded me of that because I was like, what the hell is this soundtrack? It's so like, it's such a quilt of random tunes of the time, I guess.
Well, I mean, Bad Reputation is the on the nose pick, I would say. That predates the movie by a couple decades. But I mean, I was happy to hear Proclaimers tune, the one that's not 500 miles. But the one that sticks out like a sore thumb to me always has been the Rufus Wainwright cover of Hallelujah. I didn't know if that's where you got teary, Emily, but that's the part that still was groaning 20 years later when it came up.
No, and honestly, I grew up on the original version of Hallelujah, and I love Rufus Wainwright. No, it definitely wasn't there that I was starting to tear up. It's when Fiona, like, she flies up in the church and you're like, oh, she's transforming. But so anyway, it didn't have to do with the music. I did love the score. Speaking of the music, no, it was just that moment, I think.
Shawn, can we hold the audio clip so we save it somewhere where Emily tells us that this movie's soundtrack reminded her of Yorgos Lanthimos' movie, The Favorite? Because that is a sentence I never expected to hear, but I totally get it. It's just such a, it's almost like when in Knight's Tale, when they were doing like pop music.
Yeah.
During like jousts and stuff. And I like that, to me, can go so good or so bad depending on the execution. But I think it works in that movie, and I think it works in The Favorite, obviously, which is a great movie. And and I think it mostly works here, except a little on the nose in spots. Yeah. But I mean, what do you want from a G-rated movie, I guess?
I was kidding about the Hallelujah. I thought that would be a thing that would make Emily groan, too. I truly didn't think that's the moment where she'd cry.
Oh, okay. I couldn't tell if you were serious right there.
And A Knight's Tale is the one people always reference because the trailers all had We Will Rock You. And I don't think anybody knew when they went into the film at the theater that those modern songs are actually in the film. That's, I think, what threw people so bad.
Yeah.
But the one that sticks out to me like a sore thumb is if you guys saw that Hook version that Hugh Jackman played Captain Hook, and I can't think it was just called Pan, that Universal did a few years ago. They had a Nirvana song randomly in it, and I like guffawed out loud in the theater. It was so terrible.
Oh no,
Yeah,
I never saw
it
that.
stuck out so terribly. That movie's awful, also, just in general, top to bottom, with Garrett Hedlund doing one of the worst accents ever. Hugh Jackman just completely hamming it up. But yeah, Cameron's right. It does not work more than it works.
People just remember it when it works, but
Yeah.
oftentimes it doesn't work, and it's just really, really bad.
Yeah, I mean, I think it mostly worked here. I have to say, like, honestly, this felt like such a time capsule. Like, the animation now looks super old, even though it's super fun. The playlist obviously is more from that time period, but also like the Matrix reference, I have to point out, was really hilarious to watch, because that, I guess that just came out like just before this film also
Couple years.
It was
Matrix
already
in
dated,
99.
yeah, a little bit, because it took so long to animate the movie.
Yeah. Matrix was 99. This was 2001. So it was definitely not early to the party on the Matrix reference. But I mean, people were just tripping over themselves to do Matrix spoofs at that point. Like, yeah, it's there's a lot of different references, both pop culture and fairy tale wise. And the Matrix one is probably the most glaring one that sticks out like a sore thumb that they probably wish they had a mulligan on.
Well, let's talk a little bit about actually the development of this, because it'll get into it being the pop culture referencing and it trying to kind of go toe to toe with Pixar, who was still kind of new at the time. But Spielberg had bought the rights to this movie in the early 90s, and all through the 90s it was getting developed. The book, loosely based on the book by William Steig. The directors were both making their feature directorial debuts, but the iterations that went through in development were like, they started thinking it was going to be traditional animation. Then they had the idea for a mocap Shrek among real backgrounds. And in the late 90s, that still was not quite there. Jar Jar in 99 and then Gollum in 2000 and so on. Like, they got better, but they tried it. It looked terrible. And then they fully went with a 100% computer animated movie finally. And I think that was the right call. But you're right. It's funny how it looks pretty plain and dated now. It was cutting edge in 2001.
Yeah, I mean, can you imagine a regular animation version of this directed by Steven Spielberg, who, oh, by the way, wanted Bill Murray to voice Shrek and Steve Martin to voice Donkey? Like, what would that movie have been?
Well, I mean, I love Steve Martin so much. I would never want him to, like, I want him in everything. God, that would be such a different film, though. Huh.
Well, Emily, did it cross your path at any point over the years that Mike Myers was brought in to redo this role for Chris Farley? Which, if you look at Shrek, and it kind of makes a little sense, like, this was Chris Farley's role initially, and he just didn't finish it before he passed. I didn't know if that ever caught your wind just from hearing people talk about it.
No, honestly, it's like I have some living filter for Shrek, like, in my life. Yeah. I know nothing about this film.
Well, Chris Farley was initially Shrek. And in fact, Janine Garofalo was even hired and then fired to play the opposite, which, again, with the reveal, her being a little more of I don't want to say frumpy and pejorative, but you know what I mean? She doesn't kind of fit the traditional princess look. She got fired off of it too. Mike Myers ended up recording an entire movie and then tried the Scottish accent, which everybody immediately loved. And then he went back and didn't ask for more money or anything. All it cost the production more money, and re-recorded the entire thing again with the Scottish accent, which it's hard to imagine him not having it. So really, there were like 3 iterations of voiceover for this character.
That is insane. Honestly, I feel like Janine Garofalo would have been a really fun choice here, just because she, you know, I love Cameron Diaz, but I grew up on Cameron Diaz, like, from The Mask and being like, oh my God, she's so beautiful, to Something About Mary, you know, and I've never really looked at her. I don't know. I love her on screen, but I was like, what an interesting choice to have her as, like, a voice actor.
I think what's really smart about Cameron Diaz, I mean, I think Janine Garofalo would have been great. But I think what's really smart about Cameron Diaz is, like, it kind of she's such a beautiful, elegant woman in real life that it kind of throws you off the scent that there's any kind of twist coming. Because you're not, you know what I mean? Like, you just like, oh, she's the princess? That jives. Like, I think because she's such like a classic beauty, I think you don't expect there to be a second layer there, if that makes any sense.
Actually, now that you say that, that is very true. Because when I saw her, I was like, you know, first of all, when Lord Fuckwad is making his choice, and I can't call him anything but Lord Fuckwad, because I think it's funny. But I love that he's choosing from Cinderella, a blonde, Snow White, a brunette, and then he gets to the redhead. And obviously, as a redhead myself, I'm like, well, of course you go with the redhead because they're the
cool. Of course. Yeah.
Obviously. Yeah. But yeah, seeing her as the princess and having Cameron Diaz's voice, to your point, you're right. Like, I did not expect any kind of twist to come, even though I've seen, yeah, like I figured he found like an ogre version of her somewhere, or if she like got turned into an ogre at some point. I had no clue. So you're right. I think the voice casting actually works in its favor in that regard.
I have a question, Emily. You just brought up something that has totally made my mind go off in a direction, which is if Shawn and I write a stage play version of Shrek, will you play Fiona?
I mean, obviously. Sure.
This has been a stage play. It was a Broadway musical for a couple of years.
Not by us.
True.
That's true.
We're bringing back to Smash Mouth. More Smash Mouth.
More Smash.
It's basically like that U2 Spider-Man thing they tried to do on Broadway. We're going to do that with Smash Mouth and Shrek.
Julie Taymor.
Turn off the dark.
My just side note on that, I had like really injured my foot in New York. Kind of at the time that was like going up. I had like sprained my ankle terribly. My physical therapist was the physical therapist on Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark. And so I got an insider look on how many injuries actually happened during that production. So as long as you guys aren't doing like Shrek Turn Off the Dark, then I will be your Fiona.
It's going to be Shrek Turn on the Parfait.
Turn off the donkey. But yeah, I thought the story was about to be continuing with the redhead theme. Like I was going to go audition for Mary Jane is what I thought Emily was about to say.
No.
But that story's cool too. Yeah, we've heard that's such a curse. You know, that was Julie Taymor too, right? Like there were so many things that went crazy with that play.
Yeah, Julie Taymor. I don't know if it ever actually officially opened, but yeah. Anyway, I would totally play Fiona. And this was a musical on Broadway, you said?
Yes. It ran 2 years.
Consider yourself cast in our much better version.
Amazing.
So also, just to not have them be left out in the dark here, Eddie Murphy, even though there's someone else originally played this role or he changed the accent, he is just doing the Lord's work here. I mean, like arguably one of the best performances in animation in this role, at least in my opinion. He is just all the funniest stuff comes from Eddie Murphy here. It feels like he never read the script. He just kind of winged it in the best way, but he's so good. I mean, just absolutely pitch perfect casting. Honestly,
I think Eddie Murphy is my favorite voice performance in this, quickly followed by John Lithgow. But Eddie Murphy's such a joy. And honestly, I think my favorite couple of the film, weirdly, is Donkey and Dragon, because they're just so cute together.
I love it. That was not love at first sight, but it worked.
It's so cute. Like when he like compliments her and she's like, I'm just like, yeah, girl, you've been living by yourself. You need, a guy who can make an ass out of himself, literally.
Nice. It's such a perfect example of like this movie zigging where other stuff zags. Like they show up to have this huge battle with the dragon, and instead the dragon just wants to hook up with Donkey because why not? Because he's Donkey. Of course she does. Big Donkey energy. And like then becomes part of the team, basically. It's such like a great swerve. And you get the big battle, but at the end it's just like, oh, never mind. The dragon just wants love like everybody else. It's so good.
It's so cute. It is Dragon in like future sequels, by the way.
This whole collective is in the sequels. Like I believe everybody shows back up a few times.
Yeah, I couldn't remember if the dragon came back, but if Shawn says so. I've seen them all, but I don't remember anything. So
they have little babies, like the way Muppets would have, like some would be pigs, some would be frogs. I think there's like little dragon babies and little donkey babies.
Oh my God, I have to see this. And now we got to rewatch Shrek 2. Now we have to do that thing we're doing with Alex Cuervo where he's going back and watching Scream 2, 3, and 4 for an upcoming episode. Now we have to do that with Shrek.
I don't want to do this to Emily, but like, yeah, we have Cuervo currently doing all the Scream sequels, so we can do like a little 3 minisodes combined into one full follow-up episode. So I don't think Emily's ready to commit to that just yet.
I will commit to Scream. I love those movies, and I love Courtney Cox. Like her bangs in, what is it, part 3?
Yep.
Oh, yes.
Sorry, I just have to say, like, her bangs and Parker Posey in part 3. I love part 3. Like, I will talk about. I know people hate that one, but
stay tuned for that episode because I think we go into how like her bangs were a character in that movie.
Amazing.
They got so much press at the time. It's pretty hilarious.
Yeah,
But
that movie has some stuff. It definitely goes in all kinds of different crazy directions.
I mean, did the sequels for Shrek go in equally crazy directions?
I was talking to Cam off air about this, and two is really good and solid. And I was remembering things from two that I thought were in this movie that were not, and even more successful. Three is it's kind of a pass. They run into King Arthur as voiced by Justin Timberlake, and then four kind of rights the ship and is a what if sliding doors type story. So they're all probably worth watching. I don't know if you have like nieces and nephews you can sit around and watch.
I told Shawn I hit the eject button on 3, but now he's selling me on 4. I may have to go back and watch 4 now. I never saw it.
Again, I've seen like 3 and 4 one time a piece, but I remember walking out of 3 being like, walking out of 4 being like, yeah, it was pretty good. So I have not seen it since, so can't speak to how much it might hold up.
Yeah, Justin, he played the trailer for 4 last night, and it's like a multiverse kind of.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, maybe. We could maybe go into future ones. I think I'm just kind of blown away at how simple the story was, like how simple the first Shrek kind of is if you lay it out. Like I feel like so many cartoons and films like this took pieces from this structure, and that's kind of what has led us to modern day storytelling in a way. It's almost too immense to really kind of pick apart. It's been so culturally impactful, I think.
Yeah, it is a very, it does that streamlined fairy tale storyline almost perfect. Like they cover so much ground in an hour and a half, and it just kind of, there's very little fat on the bone. There's a couple scenes where they kind of wax poetic and make some comedy where they could have gotten out, but it does feel like it moves very quickly. My only real critique, if I have a critique on the movie, is it maybe ends too quickly. It like wraps up too easily, kind of. They just kind of show up to the wedding, and then 5 minutes later, everything's perfect. So there's that. But yeah, I mean, it speeds through the pacing. It's, I think, great. So yeah, I 100% agree with that.
Yeah, and I don't typically watch films like this. Like I grew up on all the classic Disney films, and I saw Toy Story growing up, and then I kind of just don't watch films like this generally now. But I will totally agree with you. I wondered, like, are the stakes really low here, and is it wrapping up really easily, or is this just kind of what these films do, you know?
I think it's both. I mean, it is kind of what these films do, but I also just, this is one of those movies I think that's a little bit, the buildup is the story. Like, it didn't need a big wrap up because like the story was really about Shrek and Fiona realizing that they're supposed to be together. And it's not really about Farquaad. So like if you have this big third act, it's nothing but battling Farquaad. I think it could feel too much like it's a different movie, but I think it's not really a critique necessarily. It just kind of felt that way. But I think it is about Shrek and Fiona realizing they need to be together. And I think it hits those points well. So it's not a critique so much as like the one kind of thing on the rewatch that I'd kind of, a lot of times I rewatch these movies for the podcast and I'm like, oh, what I thought was like a whole third act was really just like 5 minutes. Like we had that same thing with Lost Boys, where I was like, the battle with the vampires at the end at the house, I thought was like the whole third act, and it's actually like 10 minutes at the very end. I was just like, oh, like childhood me totally bombed the timeline on that.
This one underdeveloped, even as much as I like it.
That's true. No, I mean, how dare you? So
I like Lost Boys. But to Emily's point too, it still went through all those motions of like boy meets girl, boy loses girl. There's the whole confusion and the miscommunication, and then he has to go back and retrieve her. So it still hits all those beats. So it feels earned. The wrap up, I mean, an animated movie at 1 hour and 40, it was brisk, but it didn't overstay its welcome. So that's what the sequels are for. But yeah, to the point of the cultural resonance, not just with all the normies, but this film won the inaugural Best Animated Feature Oscar.
Didn't know that. That's cool.
Yeah. The 90s, films like Lion King, Toy Story were being heavily lauded, but they were not getting that Oscar love back when it was just 5 nominations. Beauty and the Beast famously being the first and only cartoon all the way up until Up and Toy Story 4 to ever snag a Best Picture nom. Those were in 2009, 2010 respectively, but they finally introduced this category in 2001. And Shrek beats Monsters Inc. and Jimmy Neutron Boy Genius for the statue. Now, do not feel bad for Disney because they went on to win 15 of the last 21 statues for Best Animated Feature, so they are doing just fine. So, but yeah, it was interesting that Shrek actually slightly upset Monsters Inc. because when DreamWorks was launching, Katzenberg, again, bringing him back around, he was pissed at Disney. He made sure Ants got into theaters before A Bug's Life. He was fully aware of A Bug's Life, the script and everything. And they were trying to go, toe to toe with them. And they were competing pretty well in the early 2000s, just as far as box office goes. I don't think cultural resonance, people aren't still talking about Ants the way they're talking about a lot of Pixar movies, but Shrek is the one that's kind of stuck around. And if you go see a new DreamWorks kids movie nowadays, they have a new signature opening where like they're flying around and you see Kung Fu Panda and they actually end on like seeing the Shrek family waving to you. That's how much Shrek is like ingrained in DreamWorks' whole origin.
Oh, wow. Well, and look, I can't hate on Disney too much because I grew up on like Little Mermaid. I grew up on Aladdin, The Lion King. I mean, those are the stories that I remember. I do feel like, I don't know, I feel like people kind of lost their way. But I feel like coming back to a story like this, it does kind of renew my faith in this kind of storytelling in a way, just because, like I said, at the end, I can try. I'm a screenwriter. I think through structure. I'm like outlining a treatment right now. I'm writing my first novel right now. So like I'm a structure nerd. And, walking away from this, as simple as it is really good dramatic structure. Like at the end of the day.
It's funny you mentioned that because not only did it win the Best Animated Feature Oscar, it was actually nominated for Best Adapted Screenplay at the Oscars, which is not a thing that very rarely happens at the Oscars that an animated film gets nominated, and actually won a BAFTA. So it definitely, the screenplay was definitely taken seriously, even outside of animation. With the box office, it obviously took off and went crazy to the point of, making over $250 million domestically and another 216 international. So knocking at the door of about 600 million internationally, which was a lot back then. Now international's blown up a little bit in the last handful of years, but back then that was right there with Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter as far as, huge franchises go.
Lord of the Rings won, Harry Potter won, also franchise starters, the only two movies to beat it in 2001, so it ended up third.
Yeah, and Shrek 2, which came out in 2004, actually was the highest grossing film of that year. So Shrek 2 actually was an even bigger deal and kind of cemented Shrek as a franchise that is still going to this day. So it's not obviously as in the zeitgeist as it once was, but it's still riding pretty strong.
Well, and I think what this film does so right is that I think immediately to children audiences, they're going to lean in. It's interesting animation. It was brand new at the time. It was, all these fairy tales that you grow up with, which IP wise is brilliant because you don't have to Three Blind Mice is not copywritten. Like you can write about that. You can write about all of these different fairy tales that are, in collective free IP land, basically for a filmmaker. But I love that they made Shrek. I love that they made his goal to basically get the kids off his lawn. It just immediately I was like, oh, I bet all the parents were like, yup. Like when they went to see the film with their kids, I'm sure they were like, God, I wish the neighbors would just leave me alone. Like all adults, I feel like can relate to Shrek. This is
the perfect example, and really kind of the first one that I remember, at least so in your face. It's the perfect example of that thing that animated movies now do really well, which is like the parents see one movie and the kids see a completely different movie. Like the parents show up and they're seeing, dick and fart jokes and get off my lawn. And I can't, they're seeing a totally different story than what the kids are seeing. And Shrek wasn't the first one to do that. I mean, other Disney movies had aspects of it, but Shrek was the first one to kind of mass market that and it's just, there's tons of stuff that kids aren't going to pick up on that adults are going to have a good chuckle at in this one. And that's become more of a thing in animation going forward. And I think that's because of Shrek. Because of the Shrek franchise, you have stuff like Mitchell's versus the Machines and stuff that's more at the adults and also the children, like Four Quadrant. Before it was just the children will get the adults in there. And then after Shrek, it was the adults are having something to watch too. Well, that's awesome.
Cameron, you just solved it. It's not Lord Fuckwad. It's Lord Four Quad.
Oh my God.
Dude.
Emily, you just became hired. You're hired to help us write Shrek the musical on Broadway, because that's gold.
Oh my, hey man, I'm just picking it out of what you said. That is insane. Oh my God. I wonder if that's also what they meant. Yeah, it's Four Quad cinema. That's exactly what this
definitely is. That's why it made $600 million. So, I mean, this Katzenberg guy, he's got it figured out.
He's pretty smart, that guy.
He would never make a huge, terrible bomb. Never mind.
Wait, what did he make?
Oh, no, he's also made some bombs. DreamWorks has had bombs. This movie was on the heels of, or I should say a movie on the heels of this was the Sinbad animated movie. Does anybody remember that?
Yes, barely. But what I was talking about was that, what was the
Cameron
thing you watched on your phone?
Oh, Cameron was talking about Quibi. Katzenberg led the charge of with a little bit of hubris about that thing. He's like, no, we will not make it, able to be watched on a television or anything like that.
Oh, he was the Quibi guy. Oh.
Yeah, Katzenberg. How far they fall from DreamWorks to Quibi.
We won't talk about other things he's done around LA, like his crazy plan to bulldoze all homeless people, but whatever. He was a very nice man when I met him a couple of times on the back lot, and he remembered everybody's name and drove an old 80s red Mustang around the lot.
That's because you had a job and you weren't a homeless person. If you were a homeless person, you tried to.
I know he would try to destroy my tent. People are complicated, but
would you say that people have layers like onions?
Yes, onion ogre. Hashtag onion ogre.
Like parfaits.
Yes. Oh, everybody loves parfaits.
Yeah.
I do have to say though, as far as looking at details in Shrek, though, I really enjoyed the fun, weird twists in the genre too. I love just small details. I'll point out that I really loved. I love the bullfrog balloon and the little snake foldy uppy balloon animal that they shared. I love those little moments. I love the darker. There's just darker details, I guess, or alt details. And I love that their carrot was an onion in the end. That was so cute.
I love the two guys that are lifting Lord Farquaad on and off his horse. That part, it gets me every time. Every time. They lean into that little person thing with just vigor. They are they're just going to beat that horse to death.
To your point about the adult jokes that are hidden in the movie, the compensation stuff, I mean, they keep going back to wonder what he's compensating for.
Oh my God. I thought that was so funny. Yeah, it's so smart. Tons of my friends have kids and I have nieces and I've been to movie theaters before and I've really suffered through some terrible films. But how smart to, you're totally right. You give the adults their own film to watch while the kids are totally oblivious. It's so funny. Yeah, the compensation. We actually just watched Ridley Scott's Napoleon. And the whole time I was just oh yeah, it's Napoleon jokes the whole time.
I actually have not seen that yet. I want to see that. So I'm gonna check that out. But yeah, he's basically Lord Farquaad was the original Napoleon.
That's right.
He was doing it before it was cool.
Lord Farquaad. I can't get over that.
Yeah, I mean, we should, in our version of the movie, that's going to be his name, Lord Farquaad. It's going to be like Spaceballs, where they keep making the jokes about making future sequels to Spaceballs. It'll be like that. He'll be Lord Farquaad. Everything will be about making more money off of people. Shawn, are you writing this down?
Sure. Click, clack, click, clack.
We just merch the thing to death.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, DreamWorks has definitely merged it to death. They still have the guys walking around the theme parks Universal, even though the ride has been converted, I believe, at all the parks to Kung Fu Panda these days.
That's a blind spot for me. I've never seen a Kung Fu Panda movie. We should do that episode.
There's a trilogy. There's a new one even on the way, but honestly, they're rather good movies. They have some heart and soul to them. I think they're underrated.
I know the kids like them. I've never seen it.
So Emily, I wrestled with this choice, but I'm glad you took to it. I don't know if it was because you had a geek next to you watching it who maybe remembered it a little better than you, but however you got along with it, I'm glad that it was a rough one because we know that you are. I don't want to say you're highbrow and the movie's lowbrow, but I was worried there could be a bounce off, as you even told us. No, I like fancy things, and Shrek is the opposite.
I mean, I like utter trash too. Don't get me wrong. I love erotic thrillers. I love garbage cinema. I love grindhouse. I love gore. I love horror. And I also love art house and stuff like that. I am a tough audience for quad films, I think. I tend to lean away from them just because I'm like, well, if everybody likes them, I don't want to like it. And so I was wondering about this one too. I was like, oh, I don't want to like disappoint the guys and like get on the podcast and be like, it was fine.
No, I mean, it's okay not to like it if that's what this is about. This is not necessarily about finding movies that everybody's going to like as much as it's just saying like, oh, well, we can knock that one off the list. Now I've seen it. Maybe I was right. It wasn't for me. Like dumb Graham Skipper.
Yeah, we're never going to bat a thousand on this.
But
no. Well, and I have to say to the contrary, I feel like I tend towards a certain genre and I'm very comfortable there. And I'm very comfortable seeing like terribly bloody, horrific films. I love Michael Haneke. I love really disturbing films. I don't know why I find comfort in them. But honestly, it was kind of breath of fresh air. And I don't know, it reminded me of like that everyman story of like, yeah, we all feel like outcasts, but we found each other. And it's, I don't know, I feel like a Grinch whose heart grew just a tiny bit.
Not three times the size.
Maybe not 3 times. That'll be by Shrek 4. Maybe.
Yeah, well, no, Shrek 4 is but Shrek 2 will get it to 3 times, and then 3 and 4 will bring it back down to like regular size, probably. But either way, you should start just watching. I hope this starts you off watching a bunch of bad animation. I hope you're like messaging me now, like in the middle of the day, being like, Shark Tale suck. You did this to me. That is my hope.
This actually made me want to go back and like rewatch some really great older ones like Fantasia and like really old school animation.
So we're kind of jumping ahead and I guess we can get to this, but I was going to say, because you're kind of a little bit blind to this kind of movie, if you haven't seen it, a recommendation I would give you is to try to check out Iron Giant. Iron Giant is very good. Yes.
Okay. I've heard people cried during that film a lot.
Correct.
So Emily will already go in being like, I'm not gonna.
Not me.
Try to make me.
Oh, you should have seen me on the couch last night. When Fiona like floats up in the church, when she gets her kiss, she's like floating high and all the windows break and they're like, oh, she's going to turn. And she like gets up and she's still green. And Justin was just staring at me from across, like from his couch, just looking at me. And I was like, don't look at me. I'm not crying. I'm not tearing. I was like, I'm not crying. You're crying.
I love what I took from that story is that Justin has his very own watching couch.
Well, we have separate couches, partially just because our cat prefers one or the other and we just have to keep it for her. So we just inhabit whatever she's not sitting on, basically.
I get it. I have a similar house. So I understand those rules. Cat chooses first and everyone else works around.
Yeah, we are not the master of our domain here.
No,
this is
nor am I. I am the lowest person on the totem pole. My cats, then my girlfriend, then me. That's who makes decisions in my house. So, but yeah, no, I'm really glad you liked it. I want to get to some of the wrap up stuff here because we're getting towards it. But do you have any other kind of blind spots? Any other kind of blind spots, the horror genre stuff, or just kind of anything larger that we should add to the list and bring you back because clearly you're going to be a fan favorite.
No way. You guys are sweet.
We don't have any fans, but if we did, you'd be their favorite.
Well, thank you very much to all of your fake fans. I mean, I had messaged you guys the list.
Yeah, you gave us some doozies. I think we'd mentioned already Fast Times at Ridgemont High, The Goonies, Monster Squad, and a few others.
What about horror movies? Do you have any horror specifically? Because you're
that's what I want to know.
Aficionado. Do you have any horror specific blind spots?
Oh, that I haven't seen?
Yeah.
Oh gosh. I haven't seen Angst. Oh no. Tremors. I haven't seen Tremors.
That's right. That was my backup for you as well. Because that movie also features a redhead.
I mean,
that's not why I picked these movies. I'm saying that now. It came to mind now that Reba McEntire is in that film.
Oh my God, I love Reba. Yeah, I haven't seen Tremors. Oh, Justin would be able to tell me. What else haven't I seen?
Justin's keeping like a Rolodex of all the things.
Yeah, he writes.
I can't believe she's not.
He writes these things down. Have you seen Lawrence of Arabia?
I have actually seen that.
Okay, that's
through Lawrence of Arabia.
My theory is
I don't think they let you into the royal. dramatic art. If you've not seen Lawrence of Arabia, I think it's like you must sit there and watch it as part of the initiation.
That's an entire term at school, is just watching that film.
Love it.
I'm trying to think, what are other alien nightmares? Hellraiser, Friday the 13th. I actually haven't seen Friday the 13th 2 or anything after the first one.
Really?
No.
I mean, we need to discuss that just for the simple matter of, I think the first one is arguably the worst.
Oh, really?
That is a weird series where like the first one is kind of meh. It's just kind of a crappy, fast knockoff with a really cool kind of twist at the end. Yeah. But the rest of it's kind of meh, and it gets a lot better. Like 2 is way better than 1.
Okay. Well, we'll definitely write that down. I'm going to blow your mind right now with the one I just heard I haven't seen. Okay, guys. I have never seen Child's Play or any other Chucky property.
Oh shit! That's the episode we have to do, Shawn. When we bring Emily back, when the fans demand it.
I was about to say, there's a redhead connection again. Emily's only going to come back for movies featuring redheads or redhead adults.
True. That's true. Right. That could be the theme.
Gingers only.
I think we can do that one. That would be a fun one, I think.
What month is the Ruby's like the gym of a certain month? If we'll pick that month to just be like Emily's episodes every year.
All redhead movies. I like it.
That's right. Well, and I should point out, I am a redhead for anyone who hasn't seen me, but my birthday is also Valentine's Day. So I'm my mom's Valentine, apparently. So, but I think redheads are Valentines to us all. So I would love like a redhead series of films to watch.
Love it. Well, happy birthday, as it's a week away as we're recording this.
Oh, thank you.
Hold on, Shawn, big news. September 23rd is Redhead Appreciation Day.
That's right.
So we'll do it on that day.
We'll bring Emily back and we're doing
Chucky.
There you go.
Guys, we have to do it. Well,
we might.
I'll see you in September then.
Let's do it. Let's count me in. I'm there.
Well, we'll see you a lot sooner, actually. There's some things we cannot talk about, of course, but do you have anything you can promote or at least point people to, whether it's a website, social media?
Plug away.
I'm in post for something very exciting right now that I can't wait to talk about when I'm allowed to.
Us too.
I know, guys, you know what I'm talking about. But no, that's really exciting. I look forward to talking about that soon. I don't think I can promote anything right now. My new short, Accidental Stars, is on the festival circuit right now, and that's making the rounds. But yeah, I mean, there's so much I'm working on right now that I literally am not allowed to talk about. So I guess just follow me on socials. I'm at Emily R. Bennett on Instagram, and I'm still on Twitter or X or whatever you're supposed to call it these days.
It's Twitter.
I'm on Twitter. But yeah, I'm at Emily R. Bennett kind of everywhere. So feel free to stop by.
The R stands for redhead, of course. Yes. So no, we thank you again for joining this party. You were late to it, but we were glad you made it, and we welcome you in now as a SHREK werewolf.
I'm glad to be here, guys. I'm here to stay.
No, thank you for all the new hashtags and fantasy baseball team names and band names. Onion Ogre among them.
I love it. You've broadened my horizons. I appreciate it, guys.
Sorry we ask. Thanks, Emily.
Mwah. Bye.
Our thanks again to Emily Bennett. I want to remind folks again, make sure you check out her film she did with Justin Brooks, her partner, Alone With You, now streaming on Shudder. We actually did a full interview with them about the DIY crazy way they made that film in the pandemic on an episode of the Paper Street podcast. I want to say it's episode 33, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, definitely worth a check out, and thank her again for not only allowing her heart, which had been shrunk 2 sizes too small by the grind of this here business of show, to grow 3 sizes too big and let the love in, let the SHREK in. I was kind of glad we stuck with SHREK as the pick here in hindsight. I was a little weary about it, but I will say, personally, this movie, I feel like I've never kind of fallen to the charms of it myself. But maybe it's that weird connection I had with it at the theme park and even working it. But I found out watching this with my wife, Cameron, that my wife very much loves this movie and was quoting along to it and remembers it a lot better than I did. So did you have Heather along the ride with you this time or no?
I did not. The conversation went something like this. Hey, Heather, I have to watch SHREK for the podcast. You want to watch? Nope. Okay, good talk. See you out there.
Fair enough. You burned her after Love Actually.
I did. No, she's seen it before. Like she
Yeah.
likes Shrek, I think. But getting Heather to watch a movie is challenging. Getting Heather to rewatch a movie is very challenging.
No, understood.
So,
Honestly, this podcast has had me rewatching movies more than I've done in a long time because I'm always about finding a new thing I've not seen, of course, before I rewatch.
Same way.
I'm baffled when people are like, I'm on my 7th rewatch of Scrubs. I'm like, good for you. I'd rather watch a new show myself.
I can't even keep up with all the new stuff.
Yeah, there's comfort shows like The Office and Friends people will revisit just because it's like background. I get it, but I'm more interested in like trying to find something I've not seen myself. But yeah, I learned a few things about my wife actually watching this movie with her first kiss was after a date to this very movie, Shrek 1 in 2001.
Now we know why you really don't like the movie.
Yeah. What's weirder than that, she was born in the 1960s, guys. No, I'm kidding. No, she was young still, 2000. She was just getting her groove on in 2000.
We're learning a lot about Shawn's personal life right now.
I like
Shawn, say hi to Mama for us.
Yeah,
say hi to Mama.
Oh, she's a great grandma. No, that's her Shrek werewolf reveal. She's actually a super old lady.
Wait, is she a great grandma or is she just really good at being a grandma?
Both.
Got it.
Sorry, I don't like this riff or this tangent. I'm regretting it.
This has gone off the rails. We can delete all of this.
Yeah, she and I.
You did this, by the way.
Those who know both of us know we actually met at Universal Studios. Funny enough, and she had a boyfriend there at the time. Funny enough, who also played Shrek in the park. He did the full costume, did the walk around, and good for him.
Oh, so it was like a costume. He wasn't hired because of his natural Shrek looks.
No, they had a full like prosthetic head. Nobody was in makeup. It wasn't that kind of situation.
I thought maybe Alicia just had a type.
I mean, big ogres.
Big ogres, yes.
With hair in strange places. Yeah, that's her type. One funny little note that we have to keep up with, and I think this absolutely counts as voice acting, but John Lithgow, by our math, makes him the third Footloose alum to appear in multiple episodes of our program, making him also, that's right, friend of the show.
Oh, man. Footloose. Just every day I love Footloose just a little more.
He and Diane Weiss and Frances Lee McCain, if I'm not mistaken, are the three that have done multiple appearances in our dumb little thing. I need to actually put that on the website somewhere that we have a little documentation of the
we need a Hall of Fame, like the friend of the show countdown, and like I think it should be like a rolling list of like every time someone's on the show, like, oh, we've done 7 Robert De Niro movies, or like, just like a top 10 list basically of
there you go.
Of most viewed actors.
But yeah, I definitely don't, just to be clear, I do not dislike Shrek in any capacity. It was never a favorite, and it was not one that stuck with me in the last 20 years the way it has some other people, but I've enjoyed, the ones I've watched. I very much enjoyed the recent Puss in Boots sequel that came out that I believe is now on Netflix. He had a whole TV series on Netflix for several seasons that just completely missed me. That just wasn't on my radar. Yeah, when you see Shrek 2, where he finally makes an appearance, he's got a couple of the funniest lines by far in that movie. So check that out if you've not seen. I think you can kind of watch the Puss in Boots movie without any of the Shrek baggage, too. It's just a standalone. But yeah, The Last Wish that just came out in this past year. Other than that, I think we're good.
I think we are. We are free to end the episode and go on about our lives.
Yes.
I like how you said that. We're good. Like it's been a punishment. We've had to do this.
No punishment. I enjoyed it. Like I said, we always enjoy talking to Emily, who we are big fans of. We wish we could be talking a little bit more about some stuff that's going on with her and Paper Street, but down the road, you guys will get that news. But indeed, this has been a presentation of the Paper Street podcast. Thank you once again to Emily, who was late to the party, but we're glad she made it. Now go, you wayward souls. Enjoy Shrek 2. Enjoy Shrek the Third, maybe. Enjoy Shrek Forever After. I think you will. We will be writing the unauthorized sequel reboot TBD of Shrek the Musical in the meantime. But until that day, for Cameron Burns, I am Shawn Talley. Thank you for listening to our nonsense. Don't be late to the party.
Hashtag ogre onions. Or is it onion ogres? One or the other.
Onion ogre. Both work. Shrek werewolf.
Shrek werewolf. That's what I should have said. Damn it. Hashtag Shrek werewolf.